What if I told you that Blake Lively's courtroom confidence just shattered in real time as a brand new judge reopened every secret she thought was buried forever? This isn't just another celebrity case. This is the collapse of an empire built on charm and control, because behind the Hollywood smiles and red carpet moments lies a trail of leaked emails, vanished witnesses, and recordings that could change everything. Buckle up, because what's about to unfold will leave you speechless. It began like any other high-profile case, quiet, formal, and controlled. But what no one expected was that the silence inside that New York courtroom would soon turn into the loudest echo Hollywood had ever heard when Judge Louis J. Lyman dismissed two of the most critical claims in Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against Blake Lively. Most assumed it was the end of the road. A clean win for Blake, another untouchable moment in her carefully managed career, but beneath the legal paperwork and court transcript, something didn't feel right. The explanation was too thin, too rehearsed, too carefully wrapped in jargon about jurisdictional limits and lack of substantial merit. It was the kind of ruling that left legal analysts shaking their heads, because the logic just didn't hold up soon. Whispers began swirling that something much deeper was going on, and those whispers quickly turned into a roar. Investigative journalists began digging through public records, searching for any hint of a connection, any sign that Judge Lyman's decision was not just a bad call but a compromised one. What they uncovered set off a chain reaction that would shake the foundation of trust in the entire entertainment legal system. Reports began to surface that Lyman's brother had financial ties to Orion Talent Group, one of the most powerful agencies in Hollywood, and one that had handled multiple projects connected directly to Blake Lively's career. From endorsements to brand collaborations to production negotiations, the overlap was undeniable. It wasn't a stretch to think influence could have trickled through the cracks in silence. And now, with that revelation, everything about the case felt different. Suddenly, what had seemed like a procedural decision started to look like protection, and when the press caught wind of it, the fallout was instantaneous. Headlines screamed of potential conflict of interest, while social media erupted in disbelief. People began asking how something like this could have been allowed to happen under federal oversight. The story was no longer about Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively. It was about the integrity of the court itself. And as pressure mounted, Chief Judge Deborah Ann Livingston of the Second Circuit ordered an immediate review of Lyman's conduct within days. An internal investigation confirmed that Orion Talent Group had routed indirect payments to Charles Lyman through entertainment-related ventures, payments that had never been disclosed to the court or the parties involved. By that point, it was impossible to contain the narrative. Judge Lyman's reputation was collapsing under scrutiny, and even his own clerks began quietly distancing themselves from the decision. The Second Circuit moved with speed rarely seen in such cases, issuing a sweeping rebuke of Lyman's ruling, calling it procedurally inconsistent and legally insufficient, a professional embarrassment for a federal judge and a sign that something had gone terribly wrong in the handling of the case. Within 48 hours, Lyman was formally removed, replaced by Judge Teresa Miguel, a former prosecutor with a reputation for cutting through spin and exposing manipulation, the kind of judge who didn't care about celebrity status or public image. She had dealt with corporate frauds, political cover-ups, and entertainment scandals before, and her arrival signaled one thing: the games were over. Her first order was simple and devastating. She reinstated all 4 of Baldoni's original claims without alteration: breach of trust, reputational sabotage, violation of NDA, and intent to interfere. That one document changed the entire landscape for both sides. It meant everything. Blake's legal team had worked to bury was now back on the table, and there would be no hiding behind procedural shields. This time in the courtroom, Miguel's tone was unmistakable. No nonsense, focused on facts. Not theatrics when Blake's attorney tried to object, citing outdated precedent. Miguel cut her off. "This is not a press tour." She said, "If you have an objection, cite it. Otherwise, we move forward." The shift in energy was palpable. Even the reporters in the gallery noted how suddenly quiet the room became. Baldoni's team sat straighter, alert, energized. Blake's team, on the other hand, looked rattled. For the first time, the confidence was gone. And as new evidence began surfacing, that unease turned into fear. One of the first documents to reappear under Miguel's directive was a series of internal emails from Blake's PR team dated back to mid-2020, referencing an internal operation labeled Project Optics. Those emails detailed crisis communication strategies intended to control online discussion about the lawsuit, including suggestions to delay press leaks and manipulate search visibility on social platforms. The language was chilling, not illegal, but revealing enough to expose the level of coordination behind. Blake's public image when one of her own attorneys accidentally attached a redacted version of these materials. In a supplementary filing, the press seized on it instantly, and within hours, screenshots from the leaked document spread across Reddit, Twitter, and Discord communities dissecting every line. The memo included plans to neutralize influential podcast voices and legal commentators before key hearing dates, even referencing shows by name. The fallout was explosive within days. 2 Junior I. Attorneys from Blake's team abruptly resigned, citing ethical concerns. One insider told Hollywood Law Ledger that both had objected to withholding certain metadata during discovery, only to be overruled by senior counsel, and now with Judge Miguel. Demanding full supplementary disclosures, those same files were coming back to haunt them. Miguel's next order was a bombshell. She demanded Blake's team hand over every piece of evidence previously deemed inadmissible under Lyman, including email chains, Slack logs, and metadata records that had been mysteriously classified as irrelevant. That meant digital trails Blake's side hoped were long forgotten would now face forensic review, and if even one of those records showed intentional deletion or manipulation, it could reshape the entire case behind closed doors. Panic reportedly broke out in Blake's camp. PR strategists and legal advisors scrambled to create a new damage control plan, but the timing was impossible. The media narrative had already shifted. The once untouchable image of Blake Lively was now under forensic light, and the deeper the court looked, the darker the picture became every day. New threads of connection emerged, linking her production network to online influence campaigns designed to quietly discredit Baldoni's reputation on the surface. The tactics were subtle, but to those reading the documents, the pattern was clear: a coordinated strategy to dismantle trust from within while maintaining a facade of innocence and calm. And as these revelations continued to surface, it became evident that the court had only scratched the surface. Judge Miguel was just beginning to peel back layers of secrecy surrounding one of Hollywood's most shocking legal battles, and what she found next would turn a crumbling defense into a full-scale implosion. The moment Judge Teresa Miguel stepped into that courtroom, the tone changed completely. Gone were the days of glossy defenses and polished statements, because Miguel didn't care about reputation. She cared about truth and procedure, and within hours of her appointment, she made it known that every buried piece of evidence would resurface, and every name connected to the digital trail would be accounted for. The tension was thick, the kind that sits heavy in the air and makes even seasoned attorneys hesitate before speaking, and it was in that atmosphere that Blake Lively's legal team made a critical mistake during a closed session. One of her lead counsels raised her voice in frustration, accusing the court of ambushing them with new precedent, and that statement echoed louder than any legal argument, because it wasn't just an outburst, it was an admission that the defense was unprepared to face the evidence they thought would never see daylight anymore. But the truth had a way of finding its way through, and when the documents labeled EX67C were mistakenly attached to a filing, everything changed. Inside those files were internal communications, referencing the now infamous Project Optics, a detailed crisis PR operation, designed not only to control press coverage, but to manipulate influencer sentiment across social media platforms. The memo outlined step-by-step how to neutralize online voices through coordinated timing of celebrity news cycles and distraction. Tactics even referencing trending keywords to flood algorithms. One chilling note read, "Delay podcast leaks until post-hearing. Push gossip cycles about unrelated celebrities to bury legal tags." That single line exposed the precision of the operation. It wasn't reactionary, it was calculated, and that level of control raised questions about how long this machinery had been running behind the scenes when the leak hit the press. It spread like wildfire. Every outlet from Deadline Legal to Law 360 began digging through the documents trying to verify the authenticity, and within 48 hours, multiple sources confirmed the metadata was genuine, traced back to a device registered under Blake Lively's corporate IP address. What followed was the beginning of an unraveling that could no longer be contained, because soon more files began surfacing: 3 audio recordings labeled A4C, B9E, and C12F, each with timestamps matching key dates from the early months of the dispute. One recording captured a phone conversation between Blake Lively and an unnamed entertainment consultant. The voice unmistakable, Blake's own, saying, "I'll make sure he's blackballed quietly, no fingerprints," to which the consultant replied, "We'll let it die on the trades first." then let Netflix know that single exchange was enough to send shockwaves through the courtroom. Because while Judge Lyman had previously deemed it hearsay, Miguel ruled otherwise, citing Federal Rule of Evidence 801D2, admissions by a party opponent, allowing the clip to enter record. It wasn't speculation anymore, it was evidence, and that changed everything. Soon another recording emerged, this time between Lively and a senior Netflix executive discussing Baldoni's shelved mental health project. Her words again clear. It's not just that he's greenlit, it's that I'm being erased, you kill this project. Or I'm walking from everything else. The executive's name was redacted, but industry insiders quickly recognized the voice pattern as matching Jared Castellan, Netflix's vice president of originals. Though his legal team moved swiftly to block the public playback of his voice, the damage was already done, because even if the identity remained sealed, the intent in the recording was unmistakable by now. The public was transfixed. Millions watched the updates unfold online. Legal commentators live-streamed reactions, dissecting every phrase, every leak, and the question on everyone's mind was the same: how deep did this go? Because each revelation pointed to a larger network of manipulation stretching far beyond one lawsuit into the very structure of how influence operated in Hollywood. But that wasn't all. Judge Miguel then allowed a decrypted Proton Mail thread into evidence labeled P33, a document so revealing that even hardened legal reporters described it as chilling. The thread contained a full-scale strategy memo divided into sections titled Coordinated Media Erosion Dealing Phase and Kill the Mental Health Angle. It wasn't the language of legal defense, it was the language of control and calculated image destruction. The emails referenced timing cycles for coordinated leaks, mentions of freelance journalists at prominent entertainment outlets, and plans to seed disinformation through whisper networks, while none of the named journalists were ever formally implicated. Both went silent from public view shortly after publication, sparking speculation that the operation was real and active far longer than anyone suspected. Legal experts like Harvard's Professor Ella Colby stepped forward, warning that if proven, this pattern could constitute reputational sabotage and tortious interference, both serious civil violations punishable under federal law. Suddenly, what had begun as a civil dispute over creative control was now shaping into a potential case of deliberate career destruction. And as Judge Miguel began reviewing each piece under federal rules of evidence, 403 and 404B, she made it clear that prior conduct patterns would be considered. That meant the court was not only looking at what Blake Lively allegedly did to Justin Baldoni, but whether she had engaged in similar tactics before, and that shift in scope terrified her defense team. As the hearings continued, her lawyers tried to argue procedural bias, but Miguel stayed firm. No one was above scrutiny, not even Hollywood royalty. And in a rare moment captured in the transcript, she said this: "Court does not bend to reputation, it bends to record." Those words were quoted everywhere, shared across social media by analysts, fans, and journalists alike. And for the first time, the conversation surrounding Blake Lively wasn't about her films or her fashion. It was about accountability, about how power and influence can warp the system when unchecked. But even as the case expanded into new territory, the revelations didn't stop, because soon Baldoni's team introduced another layer: digital forensics. The same firm that had previously uncovered metadata trails linked to Project Optics revealed a series of deleted iCloud backups that contained entire folders of correspondence between Blake's internal PR division and outside contractors. One folder, ominously labeled Greenlight Kill, contained sub-files tracking online engagement cycles for hashtags connected to Baldoni's advocacy work. It included directives to slow the visibility of his campaigns using coordinated reporting delays and algorithm manipulation. And one file in particular, titled "If We Kill the Deal Quietly, We Kill Him," publicly became the most damning evidence yet. The document outlined a strategy to delay contract approvals, intentionally create confusion with rival studios, and seed online narratives that would portray Baldoni as unreliable. The metadata traced directly to a device inside Lively's Hudson Valley property, and when asked for independent analysis, Blake's legal team declined, submitting no counter-report within the court-mandated deadline. That silence spoke volumes, because by then even her own team knew the evidence was overwhelming. Two key associates suddenly disappeared from the narrative. Blake's assistant, Jean Hart, fled to Greece during deposition, and consultant Victor Collis invoked his Fifth Amendment rights, refusing to answer any question regarding communications with Bluefinch Studios, the rival company accused of receiving the leaked script. The situation was spiraling beyond repair. Judge Miguel issued a compliance warning and announced a forensic review hearing set for July 12th, signaling that the next phase would determine not just liability, but credibility itself in that moment. The courtroom stopped being a stage and became a battlefield, one where the truth was no longer whispered behind PR walls, but spoken aloud under oath. And while Blake Lively maintained her silence outside the courthouse, inside the evidence was speaking louder than any statement could, and with every passing day, it became clearer that the balance of power was shifting away from image toward truth, toward consequences that no one in Hollywood had ever dared to imagine by the end of the week. The narrative had completely flipped. What started as another celebrity legal spectacle turned into a defining moment for accountability in Hollywood. Blake Lively's image, once crafted with meticulous control and PR precision, was now cracking under the sheer weight of evidence. Recordings and emails that could no longer be spun or silenced. Judge Miguel's ruling to admit the digital correspondence and audio tapes marked the moment that truth overtook influence. No longer was this about gossip or personal rivalries. It had become a case study in how far some will go to preserve reputation and power. The legal experts called it a reckoning long overdue, and for once, the public seemed to agree. Each headline, each viral clip, carried the same undertone. The illusion of control was gone. Blake's silence, her team's evasions, and the missing witnesses all painted a portrait of collapse. As the court prepared for the July 12th forensic review, one fact had become undeniable. Hollywood's brightest names were no longer untouchable. The court of public opinion had turned, and with it, the truth was finally catching up to the glamour that had hidden it for far too long.